If you found this video enjoyable, please leave a like and hell, even subscribe if you want to. It only takes 2 clicks, and push that notification bell just to get the messages for my videos. That would be greatly appreciated. If you know me pretty well, I am a fan of Part 5 Golden Wind. It's a part that has its flaws, but they're not overall like major flaws that I find kind of annoying or kind of so grand it makes the part, not enjoyable. But opinions do sway on the internet, of course. But something I have not given my opinion on is Purple Haze Feedback, a kind of continuation or epilogue to Part 5. So jumping right into it, I love this story tremendously for a multitude of reasons. One, there's not a JoJo as the main protag. We have interesting villains, interesting allies that actually get fleshed out backstories to a degree that have interesting fights, mysteries that get solved in this story, and closure for a lot of the characters in Part 5. So starting off, I guess in order, is Fugo as the main character of this story. Does it work well? Well, in my opinion, it does. Fugo in Part 5 is a very kind of blank slate of a character. Fugo is very basic. He's just kind of a angry person at the world for the events that have transpired into his life, and nothing else happens after that point. He's homies with Narancia, and he has a close relationship with Bucciolati. That's about it. He gets one fight, then he has to decide whether he stays with Bucciolati or stays with the original boss of Passion, that being Diavolo. But in the end, he doesn't choose either, and he becomes a moping bitch. That's his life story summarized, but very bluntly and not very well in depth on my part. But thanks to this non-canon story being Purple Haze Feedback, we get a more in-depth look at Fugo. A more detailed look into his thoughts, his backstory, the current actions happening in this story so he can regain some type of glory and honor in Giorno's eyes. And not to spoil anything too major, it's pretty well done. Fugo is basically shown in this story to have a lot of regret in his life, before the gang and after the gang. He's more human, is what I would like to describe Fugo as in this story. And with allies like Sheila E. and Morello at his side in this story is a really great, foil of characters to bounce off development and kind of ideas and interests between all of them to make the story a lot more interesting. I don't want to spoil what Fugo does in the story because I feel like you guys should read it on your own if you have not already, but if you do know, Fugo's kind of a badass and super interesting in this story, and a lot better than a lot of the characters in Part 5 originally. He's just cool in this version. I like Fugo in Purple Haze Feedback a lot. So moving on to Sheila E., another character I like a lot in this story, being the ally to Fugo and Morello. Sheila E.'s motivations in this story are very intriguing. First, she wants revenge for her dead sister thanks to Alujo, a member of La Squadra. She has some beef with him that I don't want to spoil too heavily here, but it's a great way to introduce La Squadra back into the, Golden Wind story. And her second motivation is to gain grace with Giorno. She views Giorno kind of in a heavenly way, like most people do, which I will explain a little bit later on why I like Purple Haze Feedback, but just for now, she just views Giorno as a being higher than her. And with our final ally slash, main character, Morello, he is the informational group member with some psychological problems because, fun fact, he has a colony stand. Morello is used as the chain to connect the Speedwagon Foundation to the gang. And not to spoil anything too crazy later on in the story, it's a pretty damn cool revelation on why he is there. In the end, these 3 characters are super interesting to read about, and seeing how they all interact with each other is super entertaining. These 3 main characters are just super cool. They're interesting. If you have not read Purple Haze yet, please do, or reread it, please. It's really good. You should reread it. I've reread it like 3 times now. So moving on to the main villains, and I'm only going to mainly talk about 2 because the other 2 were just fighting fodder, and they were just kind of more or less the same character. They were both insane, kind of crazy, and junkies, kind of described as just lunatics in a sense. But I will say this, their stand fights were pretty damn cool and very interesting. But moving on to Vladimir Kokaki, this is what I want to talk about. Vladimir is a very interesting character that probably deserves his own video later on down the line. Having very powerful abilities very similar to Sosuke Aizen, which is actually pretty damn cool in my honest opinion. Rain, Dream Away, and Aizen Zanpakuto are very similar. So similar, in fact, that they were both so powerful, the people that they fought were scared to even fight them because their abilities were just too OP. Vladimir's backstory is also super good and kind of generic in the part 5 scheme of everything. He's kind of a fusion between Bucciolati, Fugo, and little bits of Narancia, but still having a bit of a personal touch thrown in there. Vladimir's so damn cool, he could have been the main villain for part 5 and it would have worked perfectly. I'm not even lying. He's that good. I like him a lot. Vladimir Kokaki is like a top 5 personal favorite character in JoJo for me at least. So moving on to Massimo. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct. I'm not very fluent in Italian. He is the brother to, and I am not joking here, Antonio from part 4 Diamond is Unbreakable, which is super cool and interesting. Like they dropped that out, gave a little bit of backstory between the two, and it was laid out right there. They had 2 different ideologies when it comes to family and how to succeed in life, and really cool. Just, you know, short backstory explanation. And then we actually got into the reasons why he's in the gang. And the reason why he's in the gang is because, well, his stand ability can make drugs. So I think you see why it's really, really powerful / important for the mafia. He basically becomes the product for Passion. And if you do consider Purple Haze feedback as canon to the story, he is basically the reason why the gang had succeeded. Without him, the gang would more or less be broke. There's also something else with him, but I'm not gonna explain it here because it's kind of reaching in spoiler territory, so I'll save it for not this video. So now I think I'm just gonna move on. I don't really want to discuss the story too heavily, but it's basically a massive redemption arc for Fugo. That's basically what it is, and there's some, like, you know, cleaning up for part 5's like loose ends. Basically that's what the story is in genuine. But yeah, that's kind of a short summary of what the story is basically in its most bare bones aspects. But I will talk about the interesting factoids, kind of the loose ends that got solved that I really do enjoy and kind of find fun. So kind of spoiler warning here. So the first one would be Diavolo's empire in the mafia. How did he get so powerful? Well, drugs, of course, but more specifically, it was thanks to this subsect of Passion that led him into being this kingpin, more or less. And since we're talking about Diavolo, we might as well talk about Trish. Like, what happened to her at the end of the story? Well, apparently, if you consider this story canon, she became a pop star. Didn't know she had bars, apparently. Mista became 3rd in command. Polnareff became 2nd in command. Interesting. Apparently Fugo can play the piano at bars. Good for him. He has some musical talent, which is weird because now that's 2 references to musical talent in this story. And Marolo was actually the one that gave out information about Trish to La Squadra. So there we go. Apparently Marolo's the actual reason why, you know, La Squadra had to die in part 5. So damn. Honestly, now thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense. How would the Squadron know that after, you know, kind of deciding not to go after Diavolo, then all of a sudden going after him again, learning about Trish? So I guess it cleared up a small loose end, if you consider it canon. And our final talking point of this video, what the fuck happened to Giorno? So basically, the story likes to describe Giorno either 2 ways, depending on what character's talking about him. If it's the narrator, well, it's kind of, well, Giorno has basically become the secret emperor of Italy. He has a massive amount of political power after part 5. He's basically able to stop football games from ever happening, and basically makes everybody turn a blind eye towards really anything. Whether this is because of Gold Experience Requiem or just his power in the Mafia now in general, who knows? But if a character's describing him, I shit you not, the way I interpret it is that basically everybody treats him as God. Like, when this man tells you to do something, you do not waver. This man is the hype man without the hype. You get hyped when this man says, go defeat that guy. And there you go. Like, Fugo describes his first encounter with Giorno as being as this enlightening moment. Like Giorno is just this glowing energy of radiance that just fucking makes you hype. Like, you can do it. Like, you can defeat the enemy stand user is basically how he describes it. TLDR, Giorno's fucking pretty good at the end of part 5. And I think think that's going to be the end of the video. If you have not read Purple Haze Feedback yet, and you have somehow made it this far into the video, please do. It's a really good story. If the stuff I have not told you right now does not make you hyped to read it, then I don't know what will. Like, Purple Haze Feedback is an amazing story that needs to get an OVA or a movie adaptation or a miniseries. It's that damn good. Well, this is the actual end of the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.